All right, let's go back to our conversation on Zimbabwe, and we speak to Dr. William Mpofu, researcher at the Wits Center for Diversity Studies at the University of the Witwatersrand. Dr. Mpofu, thank you so much for your time, and I do hope it's a better line to you. Of course, you've listened to a chunk of what was being said there in that interview, and we'll break it up into different parts. But I want us to start with the seeming tensions around the succession battle. Are these robust discussions, or is there real tension here around the Zanu-PF's presidency?
Yes, what is developing there, the events and the incidents that continue to be witnessed, are based on the crisis of legitimacy and the unfinished project of succession in Zimbabwe that was sparked by the coup of 2017. There is jostling, there is repression, there is infighting, and a witch hunt around activists like politicians, opponents of the incumbents. That's what is causing the disorder in that part of Africa, where the regime that is in power right now did not constitutionally come into power and continues to tackle the crisis of legitimacy that haunts it.
So in light of that, then, would you say President Emmerson Mnangagwa is under siege?
Definitely under siege. And what people might witness as bravado, what people might witness as strongmanship on his side, and what people might observe as power on his side, serves only to conceal the fear that haunts the man. We are dealing with a terrified man who knows that he does not sit in the seat of power legitimately, does not have the support of the country, and does not have the support of the party, united support of the party that he is supposed to be leading. So it's that fear and that guilt that makes the man so violent, so repressive, and so, the way the people are being attacked, the people are being arrested, and the people are being hunted and followed in exile and all that, it all emanates from the fear of a leader who knows that he is not in power legitimately, constitutionally, and democratically.
So what does it mean then for unity within the Zanu-PF party, especially if Zanu-PF spokesperson Kennedy Mandaza saying that his party is united, has been and always will be?
Yeah, that is the propaganda that we have continued to hear. Before Robert Mugabe was toppled, there was a million-man march in his support a few weeks before he was toppled. So there will be continued statements, continued utterances to the effect that this unit, this entity called Zanu-PF is united. But we know for a fact that this is a fractured entity, disunited, factionalism on the edge, and another coup might be in the making, might be unfolding as we speak, because there's no consensus, there's no unity, based on the lack of legitimacy that the regime is characterized with.
In light of that then, Christopher Mutangwa is another one whose name keeps coming up in the public domain. And of course, a lot is being said around him, and a lot is being said by some of the former ministers under the Robert Mugabe regime, for example. Is he trying to position himself, in your view, as potentially a kingmaker, or is there more to this?
Oh, definitely. There is a jostling over and around Christopher Mutangwa, starting right from the time when Robert Mugabe was in power. He has been a player, his family has been a player, and he will continue to be a player. And indeed, he is seen and also feared by the incumbent as a potential successor or one actor that might be eyeing the hot seat in the Republic.
So in light of what you've said right now, I mean, there are some calls, I'm sure you've seen this, saying that the SADC report that was compiled by its observers must be discussed at the summit as the country prepares to take over the chairmanship ahead of the summit. Should it be a point of discussion to see where things are and how SADC then plays a role, as some, of course, are shining the spotlight on that institution?
It definitely should be a point of discussion because what is happening in Zimbabwe is a regional affair. It's a continental affair, and it's a world affair. So such multilateral organizations like the SADC should be concerned and should be seen together with the African Union to be moving into African countries to protect citizens from rogue governments like the one that is in power in Zimbabwe. So it should concern SADC that what is happening in Zimbabwe is happening and that what has happened in that country has happened.
And what happens?
It should be a point of discussion.
What happens if it's not?
Hello?
What happens if it's not a point of discussion? What's at risk?
Yeah, what needs to be discussed is really the frauded and faulted and illegitimate elections that took place, the outcome of which delivered the present government.
Yeah.
So that election seemed to be and looked like a simple continuation of the coup of 2017, where power, privilege, and incumbency are weaponized against the democratic processes in the country and tend to produce the illegitimate leadership that is presently being endured by Zimbabwe.
Very briefly then, Dr. Mpofu, what happens if they don't discuss it? What is at risk?
It will be the deepening of the crisis. It means that the crisis of illegitimacy of the incumbent, the crisis of illegitimacy of the regime, and the continued repression of Zimbabweans and the way their political will and electoral will is being ignored will continue. And that's not good for Africa. That's not good for the region. That's not good for South Africa, to say the least.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Appreciate it. That was Dr. William Mpofu, researcher at the Wits Center for Diversity Studies.